Hello my friends, Virus here, and the Nintendo Switch successor has just been announced. Nothing concrete yet, just saying, hey, it's coming. And the post you see on screen on X, formerly known as Twitter, was Shintaro Furukawa, the president of Nintendo, just saying, hey, the Switch's successor is going to be coming in this next fiscal year. And as such, I obviously have a couple features in mind that I would like to see on this next console. So be sure to stick around till the end because that is the one that is probably the most important feature and the one that I want the most. So without further ado, let's dive into the 18 features I want on the Nintendo Switch's successor. First up on the list, pretty bare bones, an internet browser. The Switch doesn't have one. There's kind of weird workarounds where you can access social media on the Switch kind of, but beyond that, it's not really anything. And it feels kind of weird that the Switch doesn't have a built-in internet browser, which is a little bit weird, but an internet browser nonetheless would be cool. Just put it on the bottom bar with all the other things, that's all I need. Next up on the list is a better Joy-Con or Joy-Con equivalent controller for the Switch 2. Switch successor, whatever it is. If you're a Nintendo Switch owner or just a Nintendo fan in general, you will probably know that there are ongoing lawsuits because of these Joy-Con. Joy-Con drift is a huge issue and people are taking Nintendo to court for it. So I don't think that they can just give us just Joy-Cons again and still have that drift. They're obviously gonna have to rework the controller and just try to find a better option. And the first thing that comes to mind is maybe Hall effect sticks, because if you don't know how Hall effect sticks work, it's instead of the graphite pads inside the normal Switch Joy-Cons, it's replaced with magnets, which almost gets rid of drift completely. It's not a permanent fix. I believe you still will get a little bit of drift, but the technology is a little bit too new to know that for now. So yeah, just better Joy-Con or Joy-Con equivalent controllers with Hall effect sticks would be nice. Next up on the list is an OLED screen. I know this is a little bit weird because the Nintendo Switch OLED model has an OLED screen, but for some reason, something's telling me that they won't put an OLED screen in it if it is to be another kind of Switch type, console, like a hybrid console. I personally didn't pick up an OLED model Switch because I didn't really have a use for it. I mainly play docked mode anyway. I've heard the screens are beautiful, of course, but I've just never really had a need to purchase it, I guess. But I think an OLED screen would definitely be good for the Switch's successor, that's for sure. I'll just call it the Switch 2, because that's easier to say. Next up on the list is themes. We have a very sparse selection when it comes to themes on the Switch. It's just dark mode or light mode. And it's such a missed opportunity because they could make so much money off of themes alone. Just say, hey, do you want to make your Switch look like a Sheikah slate? Well, pay $2 and it's yours. Such a missed opportunity. I really think themes would just add more personality to your Switch as well, because then you can customize it to your liking. And perhaps that could be another benefit to the online service. Besides being able to purchase profile pictures, maybe you get themes. Me personally, I just use light mode on my Switch because that's just what it came with, I guess. But yeah, themes. Themes will be very cool on the Switch. There could be Zelda themes, Mario themes, Pokemon themes, just so much potential for this, and I really hope they do this with the Switch 2. Next up on the list is better battery life. Now, I know that we have better battery life on Switch already, in terms of the V2 Switch, the OLED model, and the Switch Lite, which I've heard great things about it. I've heard that, they can get up to 5 hours of playtime, that it can go upwards of 5 hours of playtime at least, which is insane. My Switch can only really do 2, maybe 3, if I'm lucky. And for reference, I do have a launch Switch, a launch edition Switch, so it doesn't have the better battery life, but it would be cool to have even better battery life in the successor. Because if the Switch Lite and the Switch OLED and just the V2 Switch can have games run for 5 hours, imagine what it would be like if the Switch 2 could run games for 8 or 9 hours. That would be really cool. So in short, I just really want a better battery life. Next up on the list isn't technically a feature, it's more so something that should come with the console, and that's a good launch title / titles for the Switch 2. If Nintendo wants this console to sell, it needs a good launch title, or a couple. The Switch had Breath of the Wild, which was a very big open-worldy Zelda, so what could they do for the Switch's successor, the Switch 2? My mind immediately goes to Metroid Prime 4, but because Metroid is such a niche franchise and there's a very specific fan base for Metroid, I don't know how well it would do as a launch title. If anything, there would need to be something launched alongside it, if that was the case. But I definitely think that Metroid Prime 4 will be a cross-generation game, kind of like Breath of the Wild was. But I really think a solid launch title will help just push the Switch successor, the Switch 2, out into hands, out into the hands of the consumers. Super Mario Galaxy 3, Mario Odyssey 2, maybe even probably a new Mario Kart 9, probably. That would be really cool. Just something to just draw people in and say, hey, that's really cool, I want to buy this console, Next up on the list is Nintendo Switch Online being rebranded as Nintendo Online. I've thought this for years, ever since Nintendo Switch Online became a thing. And I was like, what happens when they change the name of their console? Is it still gonna be Nintendo Switch Online even though it's not on the Switch anymore? And my idea is that they're just gonna rebrand it as Nintendo Online. Still basically gonna be the same thing, just with a different name. And this is also relevant towards another feature that I want on this list, but that will come later. Next up on the list is just a camera, a front-facing camera, a back-facing camera, whatever. I think it would definitely help the Switch because then there could be games based around the camera again, like Face Raiders. And really, just to protect it, you just need like a little slider on the outside, so you can just slide it over the camera to protect it. I think it's a pretty easy application of a camera. Next up on the list is it just needs to be a more powerful console in terms of resolution output and frame rate, so I guess just better specs. Ideally, it should be able to at least output 1080p and 60 FPS, which of course is frames per second. I really think that the presentation of games matters, and if it looks really good on the Switch too, then that's a huge plus. And I think it would also pave the way for a lot of bigger games to come to the console, you know? We see all these third-party releases, but a lot of them run like, well, they run like they're on a less powerful console. So I really think that just a better console in terms of specs and just like hardware is definitely needed, because then I don't mean those third-party games can really shine. Next up on the list is more internal storage. Only 30 gigabytes on the entire console. That doesn't even count what's already being used on the console when you get it. So really you only have like maybe 26 gigabytes, I think. So what can you have on your Switch's internal memory with just that? Well, you can have Fortnite, but beyond that, not really much if you just have Fortnite. So I definitely think that more internal storage is needed, especially since not all of us just have the time and money to go out and just buy an SD card, you know? Because SD cards can be expensive. Yes, some of them are pretty reasonable, like a 128 gigabyte SD card for $9 at Walmart, not too bad. But if you start filling that out, you're gonna want to upgrade your storage, and a 512 gigabyte SD card can run you upwards of like $40. 25 at the very least. And that's an extra, you know, 20 to however much. I see one at 70 that you're tacking on to the Switch's price already, which is probably going to be like $400 realistically. So yeah, I really think that the Switch 2 will benefit from internal storage. Absolutely. And I hope that there's more. Even if it's just doubled. Even if it's just doubled, it will make a huge difference. Also, I don't know where I'm going to splice this in the video, but next up on the list was supposed to be better Bluetooth. I decided to put this on the list because Bluetooth was added later in as a firmware update, and as a result, it's not the best because obviously the wireless controllers use Bluetooth to, you know, send inputs to the console and all that, but it was never built with like a Bluetooth interface for like other peripherals in mind, like headphones and such. So I really want to see like just a better version of that, just so that there's like no latency. Because if you add too many like, you know, Bluetooth peripherals, like say like 3 Pro controllers and a headset, then you're going to experience a lot of latency, which sucks. So I just want to see that reworked for the Switch 2. Now back to the rest of the video. Next up on the list is just a more durable build quality and structure. As we all know, the Switch isn't the most durable console. It definitely feels very fragile and very prone to breaking, I guess. Especially the Joy-Con rails, like the Joy-Con railings. One of my biggest fears with my Switch console is that rail's gonna snap off. Obviously this keeps costs down, but at the end of the day, I want a product that will last, you know? My Switch has obviously lasted thus far, all, you know, almost 7 years that I've had it, but I really just think a better build quality will just like make it so much better. Next up on the list is a better eShop. I've heard so many complaints that the eShop on the Switch is boring. And here's a simple fix. Upgrade the visuals. Make categories that are, you know, kind of cool. Like, oh, here's your RPGs, here's your first-person shooters, here's your action games, here's your platformers, you know, stuff like that. And just for crying out loud, bring music back. The Switch's eShop is so quiet, it is so annoying. I loved the music on the 3DS eShop, and it was probably my favorite part of the eShop on the 3DS, even before the games. Sometimes I would just load up the 3DS eShop and just listen to the music sometimes when I was like doing homework at my desk when I was younger, or just to listen to it. So I definitely think a better eShop is in order for the next Switch. I think that'd be really nice. Next up on the list, this one is a little bit weird. A party chat function, like Xbox Live chat or PlayStation chat. Like you can, you know, have you have Nintendo friends on the Switch already. Why can't you just invite them to a party and like talk to them and like invite them to other games so you can play them online with each other? Really, it's just like if you don't have them added on like social media and say, hey, you want to play Mario Kart? You don't really have many options beyond that. So I think a party chat function would be pretty cool, and it would be pretty useful. Next up on the list is better motion controls. So the motion controls on the Switch obviously use a gyroscope. That's okay, except it kind of sucks. A good example of this is in Pikmin 3 Deluxe. When you're using the gyro, it just tends to drift, and it can be rather annoying. So I think just better motion controls could be better. I don't know exactly what could be better, but just a simple upgrade to the motion controls and I'll be happy. Next up on the list is a better dock and or portable travel size dock. Obviously we have a better dock in terms of the Switch OLED dock, but I feel like it could be a bit better in some areas. Like maybe make it so the HDMI port isn't so annoying to try to fit into sometimes, because that seems to be a problem with me whenever I move my Switch around. And in terms of the travel size dock, it'd be cool if it came with one. Like, okay, you don't want to haul around your home dock, so here's like a little travel size one that you can put in a hotel or something, you know? Obviously there are third-party docks for the Switch that kind of accomplish the same thing, and I would like to see something official from Nintendo like this. That'd be really cool. Next up on the list is a better cooling system. The Switch does a pretty good job at keeping itself cool. It does a pretty good job at keeping the hot air out, but the Switch still gets pretty hot, and I'm worried about playing it for too long at times because I don't want to damage the console. So I really think a better cooling system, whether that be on the dock, so like when it's docked, it has a better cooling system, like an intercooler, or also just like a better internal cooling system just to keep the console cooler, you know? I don't exactly know how that would work. I'm not an expert on this kind of thing, but I would really like a better cooling system just so that, you know, my Switch doesn't overheat. Really, that's just the whole gist of this feature. I just want it to be a better cooling system. That's really it. Now, this is my most wanted feature for the Switch 2. This feature, I believe, will either make or break the console. This feature could basically decide the fate of the Switch 2 in terms of it being as successful as the Wii or as being successful as the Wii U. Depending on if it gets this feature or not, I really feel like it'll go down one of those paths for better or for worse. And I really hope that the Switch 2 is backwards compatible with the Switch in terms of games, so we can continue playing our Nintendo Switch games on a more powerful console on current gen hardware. I really think it needs this. And if it doesn't have this, I really worry about how the console will do in terms of sales. Because there are a lot of reasons why this is a good idea. One, if there are Nintendo Switch games still releasing into the Switch's successor's life, the Switch 2, whatever it's called, then you can still buy those games and then just play them on the Switch 2. You know, that's just a good idea. Another reason is it doesn't devalue all the Nintendo Switch collectors. Like if you've seen people like Woodhawker, aka Beat-em-Ups, he has a huge Nintendo Switch collection. And if it's just gonna sit there and collect dust while, you know, he collects for the next console, then it kind of seems like a big middle finger to him. And another reason, this is really just for me, but Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. It is one of my favorite games of all time, and it seems to be releasing in just like, you know, the last final, you know, years of the Switch's life. And this game makes me hope more than ever that the Switch 2 is backwards compatible with the Switch, because then I can keep playing this game on the Switch 2. I think if the Switch 2 doesn't have backwards compatibility with the Switch, I think it will fail. I genuinely believe that. Sure, it might have some good exclusives, but there's a huge library on the Switch, you know? And we can play those games on the Switch 2 while we're waiting for the first-party games to start racking up. And that's basically the video, guys. That was a lot of fun to make. And I would really like to know, what is the feature that you want on the Switch 2 the most? Let me know down in the comments below. And because there will be a June Direct, I will do a predictions video on that when, you know, they announce it, or maybe like a few days before they announce it, I'm not sure. And then obviously I'll do a reaction to that Direct on my second channel, Virus Reacts. But that's basically it for this video. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new, and click that bell so you never miss any Virus content. As always, I will see you in the next one. Virus out.